Hello, it's me, Terry.
And Jenna.
And this is Introvert Theater's Top 10 2022 viewings. Not necessarily movies that came out in 2022, but movies we saw for the first time in 2022.
Yes.
Although there'll be a lot of movies from 2022 on this list. I have some notes and some rum, and Jenna has coffee in hers. And we're going to get rocking here. So Jenna's going to go first.
Perfect. Okay, so my number 10 is Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Ooh.
I think that is going to make a lot of people's top 10 movies this year. Just an epic film. When it first started, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. It's really taken me on a ride. I'm confused. I don't know what's going on. There's a lady with hot dog fingers. What's happening? But at the end, it really just, it gut wrenches you, and amazing performances all around. Beautiful movie, beautiful message. That's all I'll say. Watch it if you have not.
Yeah, good movie. Okay, my number 10 is Top Gun Maverick. So I want to put this like lower on higher on my list, but there's other movies I saw. It needed to go on the top 10 list, but it's not any lower than 10. So this movie is not a movie I was looking forward to seeing. A sequel to a movie, Top Gun 35 years ago. I was like, whatever, we'll see what this is going to be, and didn't even think we rushed out to see it right away. As we heard it was pretty good, we decided to go see it, and it was like, the most fun I had at the theater ever, seeing this movie. Tom Cruise is great, and a great simple story, but just brings back that nostalgic, awesome summer blockbuster theater experience. It resurrected the theater experience, especially post-COVID.
Yeah.
And I had so much friggin' fun watching this movie. Shot beautifully, the IMAX scenes, and just the action scenes and the acting was great. Just a fun all-around movie. Great sequel to the original. I friggin' loved it. That's my number 10.
Number 9 for me was Goodfellas. I think this was my introduction to like big crime noir Scorsese films. I think that's the first one we watched.
Yeah, maybe.
Either way, I'm hooked now. Let me tell you. I could watch hours and hours and hours of these movies and just never get tired of it. Crime boss, mob, coming up in the mob family.
Ray Liotta.
What do I say?
Ray Liotta, De Niro, and Pesci.
Yeah. Beautiful,
awesome
wonderful movie.
Classic.
I want to live in that time period. I want to be the wife of a crime boss.
Obviously, I've seen that movie 10 bazillion times, and I exposed her to it this year, and I'm glad she loved it. It's a good movie.
Yeah. Awesome movie. Loved it.
Okay, my number 9 was The Northman. So The Northman, directed by Robert Eggers. I'm a huge fan of Robert Eggers. I love The Witch. I love The Lighthouse, which I also saw for the first time this year, and friggin' love that.
Sorry about that.
I love Robert Eggers' filmmaking style. I think he's a great up-and-coming director. This is one of my most anticipated films of the year. And we saw it in the theater, and I did not enjoy it. There was something going on with my first sitting experience in the theater, and then I had time to sit with it, and then we rewatched it when it came out in 4K, the 4K disc, and the 4K disc is beautiful. So you don't have that, you have a 4K player, pick up the disc. Once I kind of got it more into context and I sat with it and realized it's like, a Viking saga. It's take on, it's Shakespearean in a way. It's a take on Hamlet. It's like a Viking fairy tale, Viking saga tale, where they're, ways they would record history. So it was a bit fantastical. It had a certain pacing. It was kind of theatrical with the line delivery and stuff like that. Gorgeous movie. And once I kind of set up with that and watched it for a second time, I ended up absolutely falling in love with it. So Northman's my number 9.
My number 8 is Hell or High Water. With Chris Pine and who's the brother? Ben Foster.
Jeff Bridges is the sheriff.
Yes.
In that movie.
I just love any movie with brotherly bond or male bond. Really, actually, you might see that theme in my list. And I love crime movies. They're two brothers. They plan heists together. They plan this one big heist. Things happen. Awesome epic movie with a beautiful underlying story. Would definitely recommend watching that if you haven't. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's like a neo-western film. Definitely a western.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Pine and Ben Foster and Jeff Bridges are phenomenal. Highly recommend Hell or High Water. Might be in my top 5 movies of all time, which is huge saying, but it is. My number 8 is Good Time, directed by the Safdie brothers. So this was the first Safdie brothers film I've seen. Maybe Uncut Gems was first. We watched them the same day. Uncut Gems and Good Time.
Same day?
Yeah, we watched them the same day. And Good Time was my first exposure to the Safdie brothers, and oh man, I'm a huge fan of those guys. I can't wait to see what they do. And so Robert Pattinson in this movie is amazing, and this is when he was cast as Batman. Everyone's like, "Oh, Robert Pattinson, the Twilight Vampire." I don't think people had seen him in other things, and if you'd seen Good Time, you would be a lot more. You would have been at the time a lot more optimistic about his potential portrayal as Bruce Wayne of Batman. So you follow Robert Pattinson and his mentally handicapped brother in this series of foils, follows this entire movie, and it's just you can't take your eyes off the screen. It's funny, it's dramatic, it's just chaotic. That's my number 8. I love Good Time. I love the Safdie brothers. Check it out.
Yeah, I was very impressed with his performance. So my number, I guess 7, yes, is Paris, Texas.
Oh.
I'm not going to talk too much about Paris, Texas because I feel like you'll have more to say. But basically 1984 movie starring Harry Dean Stanton. He's found wandering around. He has no memories. And he ends up going on an adventure to find his long-lost love with his son. And that's all I'm going to tell you. Need to watch it. Beautiful movie. I think I bought it for you.
For Christmas.
Yeah.
The Criterion Collection Blu-ray.
And you hadn't asked for it. I was just kind of looking for movies.
I had talked about it before, but you blind bought that for me.
I blind bought that for him.
Really good buy.
I think a lot of the time movie experiences for me are elevated watching them with you. Like when we have a similar emotional experience watching a movie, it almost makes it better. So there was something about watching that movie with you that just made it beautiful. So
okay, my number 7 is Land of Mine from 2015. So Land of Mine is a movie that I forget how we stumbled upon it. I think I found a trailer through searching for something else. I don't remember, but it's a 2015 film. It's post World War II Denmark. And it's German-occupied Denmark. This is the end of World War II. Germany's been occupying Denmark, and now the war's over, and they're using POWs to clear the beaches of mines, all the mines that were planted by the Germans there. So it's a group of very young German soldiers, like 16, 17, 18 type of range, and they're being looked after by this one officer, and he is, there's obviously a huge disdain for the German soldiers in the German army, and there's just this story of humanity and learning the effects of war and who people are in war and outside of war, and how children were dragged into these conflicts and put into these situations where they have to be men and they're not, their children, and it's just a really good movie. So it's a war film, but it explores a less focused on part of the war. And I highly recommend Land of Mine. It's a really good movie.
Yeah.
That's my number 7.
Love that movie. A lot.
I'm assuming it's going to be on your top 10.
Don't give anything away. My next movie, never expected this would be on my list. Didn't even know what it was. We just watched it. It's a Wonderful Life. It's my number 6. Yeah. Wow. I loved it. Like, I actually loved it. Yeah, I screamed at the end. I was like, this is going to be on my top 10.
So any American people, friends or followers watching this will kind of be shocked because it's a pretty prolific American Christmas movie, and starring James Stewart. It's an awesome movie, and it's pretty prolific. And I didn't grow up with it. Like, I didn't see it on TV here in Canada.
No,
I've
never seen it.
Maybe somebody else has. I don't ever remember seeing it in Canada. I always had heard of it, but I'd never actually seen it. So we just watched it, and yeah, I loved that movie.
We watched it as part of our Christmas movie watch before Christmas. It's a 1946 black and white film. I'm usually not a huge fan of older movies that are black and white. There's a select few that I really love, but this movie, I can't even begin to talk about it. This man is basically down on his luck. He's having a really hard time. He didn't make the choices he thought he would make in life. He's not going down the path he always dreamed of. And he's depressed. Things are going wrong for him. He has a beautiful family, though, but there's things that the wonderful things in his life he's not focusing on. And basically, he
thinks the world would be better off without him.
Yeah,
If you've never seen it, it's awesome.
I can't even tell you more. I want to tell you the whole plot, but watch the movie. Yeah. Beautiful movie. I cried. I laughed.
That's a good one. That's your 6?
That's my 6, yeah.
Your 6? That's high up.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, my number 6 is Memories of Murder from 2003. So this was another Criterion Collection find. Pretty popular. I think it came out this year in Criterion Collection Blu-ray. But anyway, Memories of Murder. So it's this movie's important to me because it was one of the first South Korean films that we had watched, and it really shows that South Korea has a lot to offer with like the crime noir thriller genre. We watched a good handful of South Korean films this year, and they're all epic.
Yeah.
But Memories of Murder, I think, was one of the first, and it's essentially a thriller crime murder mystery, neo-noir murder mystery. Takes place in South Korea, based on a real serial killer. The movie itself, the filmmaking, they blend like the way they can blend some South Korean films have this like dry comedy, almost like British humor.
Yeah.
And the way they blend that with the crime noir setting, the serious tone, how they can mix those things, it's just really well done. If you haven't, if you're okay with subtitles in foreign films, get okay with foreign films and subtitles because there's so many amazing movies.
My number 5 is something I never thought would go on my list as a horror film. I don't like horror movies really. You'll always say I do, but I don't. I like some psychological horrors. You really got me into some scary movies.
Yeah,
anyways,
Ghostbusters was a horror movie before I came into her life.
Yeah.
She wouldn't even watch stuff like that.
So, my number 5 is Hereditary.
That's a good movie.
So, as soon as I finished this movie, I was like, this might have to be in my top 10. This was a genius movie. Shocking, but an awesome story. Not too scary. Scary enough that I was on the edge of my seat and it was suspenseful, but it was more spooky and creepy and psychologically thrilling.
It creates it's like an Ari Aster film, and he creates these like constant sense of you're constantly unsettled the whole time that you're watching with the imagery and the cinematography and the editing and the sound design.
If your jaw's not on the floor within the first 30 minutes,
I don't know if it'd be on the floor. Oh yeah. I guess it'll be on the floor.
It'll be on the floor.
The first act's gonna have you floored a little bit.
Just shocking. Anyways, Hereditary, definitely watch it. What's your number 5?
My number 5 is, I thought this would be lower, like higher on my list, as in like it'd be more towards number 1, but it is where it is. Everything Everywhere All at Once, which was your number 10. Yeah. So Everything Everywhere All at Once. It came out. We saw the trailer for it. I knew it was coming out in theaters. It's an A24 film, which is a big plus for me and for Jenna. We love A24. And it has Michelle Yeoh in it. And I was like, okay, I friggin' love Michelle Yeoh. And it's got Ki-Hugh Kwan. So Ki-Hugh Kwan, remember him from Goonies back in the day, or he was short round in Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom. I don't know if I've seen him in anything since then. So he shows up as like as a supporting actor in this film, and he is awesome. I think he's gonna get a Best Supporting Actor nomination with the Oscars this year. But anyway, movie, I don't even know how to really explain it. It's like you don't even know what's happening for the first 45 minutes. You just have to be pulled along and just trust the process. And Michelle Yeoh is amazing. Like I said, Ki-Hugh Kwan's amazing. The editing and costumes and makeup and everything, the editing's outstanding.
Yeah.
Like this movie was one of my favorite viewings, like just sitting down and watching. I was just like hooked from the opening scene. You just, and even towards the end, like, what the hell is happening? What the hell was that? But it's like, I don't even know. I don't know how much there's not a whole lot you can say about it because it's hard to describe the film. But watch a trailer if you haven't seen it, don't know what it is. And if you like Michelle Yeoh and you like Ki-Hugh Kwan, you just want a cool movie, just sit down, give it a chance. And when it starts to kind of peel back layers, there's a lot going on in this film. And yeah, I loved everything.
It's not just an action, flashy multiverse movie. It's a lot deeper than that.
Yeah, that's a good way. It's a deeper action multiverse movie. Like I said, the editing is great. And Ki-Hugh Kwan, like if you're an '80s kid like me, it's really cool to see him in this role. So yeah, that's my number 5.
My number 4, you had on your list last year, is Riders of Justice. I watched it for the first time this year with you. Danish movies. We watched it with subtitles. Just, how do I even describe it? It's a drama, emotional, action thriller, revenge movie.
Mads Mikkelsen. And it's also like Memories of Murder. It balances these things with a lot of comedic elements.
Yeah.
Like the comedic elements are just kind of shoved in there in the dialogue and the interaction between the characters. And
I think it's on Netflix. We haven't been mentioning where people can watch these movies, but I think Riders of Justice is on Netflix, so it's
possible.
accessible.
I don't know for sure. If you haven't seen Riders of Justice, if you don't watch a lot of sort of interrupt you. If you don't watch a lot of foreign films or foreign films with subtitles, this should be one of your first ones.
Yeah, good place to start for sure. Basically, it's about a man whose wife is killed in a tragic train accident, and he returns home to care for his daughter. Finds some things out, and I'll leave it at that. Actiony, emotional.
I wouldn't even have said that much, but it's not, that happens in the first 5 minutes. So
that's in the synopsis.
Is it? Mm-hmm. Okay, if it's in the synopsis, it's fair game. So.
Yeah.
Okay. 4?
That is 4. Yeah.
Okay, this was going to be higher up there on my list also, but so this number 4 was my most anticipated film of the year, ahead of The Northman, the Batman, Matt Reeves, the Batman. So I'm a huge Batman fan. Grew up reading the comics, still read the comics. Batman the Animated Series is my favorite television show of all time. Mask of the Phantasm animated movie I think is one of, if not the best Batman movie. But this is now the Batman. Matt Reeves' The Batman is my favorite live action interpretation. I think it really nails the year one Batman vibe and storyline. I think that the casting was insane. You got Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon. You've got Paul Dano as the Riddler. You've got Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. You've got John Turturro. You've got Colin Farrell as the Penguin. You wouldn't even know it's him until someone tells you. Andy Serkis is in this movie as Alfred. So the casting was amazing. Gotham City itself, the cinematography and the sound design especially, and the lighting, all creates this setting as a character, like Gotham City, this city on the brink of complete despair. And I just think this direction they're going with Batman, the crime noir Batman, focusing on the non-superhero side and more of the damaged detective, he's an imperfect character. This was everything I wanted in a Batman movie. I know a lot of people will disagree with me, and really aggressively, but just for me personally, this is my favorite, best I could have hoped for from a Batman film. It's my number 4.
Okay, don't look.
Oh, yeah.
Now you saw.
I didn't read it. I can't read.
Okay, my number 3 you already mentioned is Land of Mine. Mm-hmm. Very high up on my list because it was just a beautiful film to look at, to absorb. So a take on war that you don't think about or maybe haven't been exposed to. The cleanup that happens after a war. As you mentioned, it's a bunch of young German soldiers who are supervised by a Danish soldier who obviously has a lot of resentment towards the Germans, and supervises them cleaning up these landmines across a beach. And it's extremely dangerous and extremely suspenseful. Gut-wrenching movie, but a very beautiful story and a beautiful film. Yeah. So would absolutely recommend Land of Mine to anyone. Yeah. It's not a war. I wouldn't say it's a war movie.
One of the first films we watched in 2022. Mm-hmm. Really, really early on too.
Yeah.
Okay. My number 3 is The Fabelmans. So The Fabelmans. So I'll preface this just really quickly, rambling too much.
Catch your breath.
We went to the Toronto International Film Festival this year for the first time. It was probably the most fun I ever had in my entire life. It was awesome. A lot of memorable experiences. We saw a lot of amazing movies. So my placement of this movie could be somewhat affected. I can't remove it or divorce it from the experience of being at TIFF. So I'm not a celebrity guy. I'm not I don't think I am anyway. I don't really care. It was we saw a lot of celebrities when we got there, and throughout the time it was cool, fine. Yeah. But friggin' goddamn Steven Spielberg shows up at the premiere of The Fabelmans that we saw and introduces the film. And my jaw was on the floor. It was so crazy to see the man that directed my childhood, essentially, and probably one of the most prolific North American director, stand there and deliver a heartfelt, emotional speech about this movie, because it's a semi-autobiographical film about a young boy, Sammy Fabelman, who discovers his love of film and his journey of becoming the journey or portion of his journey of becoming a prolific film director. And it's so that whole, what I just described, a young boy falling in love with film, is overlaid with this deep family tapestry of goings on between the dynamic between his parents and this whole thing with his childhood and all this stuff. So it's difficult. The movie is good regardless. I really love the film, but it's somewhat potentially elevated by the fact that we were watching it after it being introduced by Steven Spielberg and him being in the building. So that's my number 3. That movie was just such a fun experience, an amazing experience, the theater experience, everyone just standing ovation at the end of the movie. But if you haven't seen The Fablemans, it hasn't got a lot of push here in Canada, at least, as far as it hasn't been playing in theaters like that. Crazy it got released. I don't know, it might just end up on streaming or on physical media and then people maybe see it. But see this movie. It's going to get nominated for Best Picture. Spielberg potentially Best Director. I know that Michelle... What's her name? Michelle Williams.
There you go.
Is getting a nomination for Best Actress or Supporting Actress. Paul Dano, again in this, plays his father. I'm rambling about this movie, but it's a must-see. If you like Steven Spielberg, this is him at his best. And I just love this movie. I'm assuming she's going to have more to say about it.
My number 2 is The Fablemans. Just astounding film. And again, the experience of watching it. So when we weren't expecting Steven Spielberg to be there. Typically, the directors only show up for the premieres.
The big directors, yeah.
The big directors. Yeah. So it had premiered the night before, a couple days before, or something.
The night before.
Before we saw it, we were seeing it at 11:30 the next day. So we were like, "There's no way Spielberg's gonna be here."
Yeah, we're the second audience to see it, I think.
Yeah, we're the second audience. It's in the morning. I'm like, he's not gonna be here, so we're fully not expecting him to be there.
We did have to go through metal detectors though, so that was different. That probably should have cued.
I don't know why we didn't think about that. Yeah, we had to get rid of our food and water and go through metal detectors. Anyways, so we didn't think he was gonna be there. So the lady's introducing
the producers,
the producers and whatnot, and she's like, yeah, and one more special person to introduce you to, and is so nonchalant about it, and it's like Steven Spielberg. Yeah. I've never seen Terry's face do the face that he did. It was like his jaw was fully open.
It was I was like,
it was so cool.
That type of thing.
It was so awesome, and awesome. The movie was just beautiful. Like there's not much more I can say about it outside from what you said. Yeah. But I would say, the family dynamic and just the coming of age story is just as strong, if not more overpowering than
beautiful coming of age story
than this story about him falling in love with film. They're intertwined together very well, and apparently this might be Steven Spielberg's last movie. Well,
there's rumors that it was his last directorial project, which he'll still produce and be involved, but who knows? We'll see. He's still a young man, so we'll see.
That was my number 2.
So my number 2 is Paris, Texas, which was the first film we watched in 2022. That almost made my number 1. Oh. So Paris, Texas, again, I don't know how to... I don't think a lot of people will... It's hard to describe it out. If you're an art house lover, this movie's for you. But even then, it's like things I wrote, like Harry Dean Stanton's at his absolute best, directed by Wim Wenders. I think the screenplay was adapted by Sam Shepard. So Sam Shepard's the friggin' man. So Harry Dean Stanton's, 80s, 90s, the actor icon, philosopher, actor. The guy was awesome. So this movie, like, best thing I can describe it is it's like a feeling. It's just an emotion that it instills in you throughout the whole film. It's slow paced. Cinematography's awesome. It almost has like Western style cinematography where you see him with the landscape constantly, and there's this man that's seemingly depressed man, and this estranged from his young son and his wife, and this journey that he goes on and they go on, and it's hard to explain. It's very subtle, very subdued. That's all I can say. I don't know how. It's not something I would just whip out and recommend to anybody. But for me personally, it was an amazing movie. My second favorite viewing of the year. This has stuck with me all year. Got a poster of it down in Introvert Theater. Love it. Love the movie.
There's some movies that we watch where we're like, this really impacted us, and this is an amazing movie to us. I think it's not saying that they're not amazing movies in general, but I do think there's some movies where we just objectively, this is a good movie, you should watch it. Or this movie just really...
You have to be into the art house. You have to be willing to really appreciate the filmmaking process and read between the lines and the subdued...
And not be entertained.
Yeah. You're not... Time, it's about being entertained by the entire product itself towards the end. Going on the journey. As opposed to a Marvel movie where... Nothing against... I freaking love Marvel movies and action films. But being entertained second to second. This is my number 2. That's all I can say. Harry Dean Stanton... Sam Shepard, Paris, Texas. Wim Wenders, amazing film. It's my number 2.
Great film. We've only had a few overlaps so far. Last year, I feel like we had a lot of the same.
Well, because a lot of the movies, because our first viewings ever, like a lot of the films on yours I'd seen before.
That's true.
And it's been my first viewings. It's been the hardest list to make ever. It already was damn hard to make this list this year.
Okay.
Oh man, I know what your number 1 is. Go ahead.
I feel like I need a drum roll. Okay, my number 1 is The Whale with Brendan Fraser. We saw this movie at TIFF. It was the second last movie that we saw at the festival. And I'm glad it was on the last day because I don't think I would have been able to watch any other movies after that movie. I can't even talk about it because I'm still so emotionally traumatized. This movie full-fledged gave me a panic attack because I was so emotionally invested and distraught and moved by it. Putting my emotions aside, which is very hard, and obviously I couldn't put my emotions aside for this ranking. It's probably one of my favorite movies of all time. But trying to put my emotions aside, just a wonderful, wonderful story. Outstanding performance by Brendan Fraser. If you haven't seen this movie, you need to. He has to get an Oscar.
Another limited release here in Canada.
Yeah, it's weird. Why is no one talking about this? Sadie Sink, Stranger Things gal, plays the daughter of Brendan Fraser in this movie. He is a morbidly obese man going through life, trying to live, and he is estranged from his daughter and his family. He really doesn't have anyone in his life. And that's the premise, basically. It's really sad. Yeah. It's beautiful, but it's really sad. And every single person in the theater at TIFF was weeping.
Oh, yeah. There wasn't. Hard. I've never been in a theater where there was that many. Like, everyone was crying. It was crazy.
Audibly. Loud crying.
Yeah, it was crazy. You're also at a film festival where everyone's an enormous film fan, so it's a different environment. It's the best environment. Everybody's so cool. Everybody's so invested. But yeah, there wasn't a friggin' dry eye in the house. It was crazy. Yeah. And then she got so emotional she had an anxiety attack.
Yeah, it hit me on
a burrito after.
We're eating burritos after, and I was just taking it all in and thinking about it. And that movie really made an impact on me on a personal level, on a film level, on an emotional level. All the levels. Watch The Whale. Absolutely watch it, but bring a whole box of tissues.
We meant to do our honorable mentions before you did number 1.
Oops.
Okay, we'll do
them after.
We'll do them. Yeah, we'll do them after. I'll do my number 1, then we'll do honorable mentions. Okay, so my number 1, which surprised me, is my number 1, is a film from 2019, Jojo Rabbit.
Number 1.
Jojo Rabbit made my number 1.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm shocked.
I'm shocked.
Just when I think about everything that I watched this year and how this movie, so it's Taika Waititi, I think, directs it. It's his most it's his most mature film. So anyone who's watched a Taika Waititi film, the most recent Thor film, Thor: Love and Thunder, he's got that goofy, dry comedy or slapstick kind of comedy mixed all together type of films that he makes, and I like him. I think he's great. But here he's got this World War II, middle of World War II, Germany, and they take this serious subject matter of the Hitler Youth and the social climate in Germany at the time. And you have this young boy who's super proud to be in Hitler Youth. And he wants to catch some Jews and all this type of stuff. And it's got Sam Rockwell, Rebel Wilson, Scarlett Johansson. The young boy is played by Roman Griffin. He plays young Jojo.
Amazing
this kid is great. This kid is great. And Thomasin McKenzie. I can't really say who she is in the film. I don't want to give too much away. But Thomasin McKenzie is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, younger up and coming actress. I think she's phenomenal. But Jojo Rabbit does this thing where, it's funny, it's heartfelt, it's gut wrenching, it's absurd. You have the kid Jojo. Has an imaginary. Hitler's his imaginary friend, essentially. So you have Taika Waititi playing Hitler, and it's this goofball, off the wall, goofy, comedy between the two, and him seeing and speaking to him, and and they intertwine all this. Any type of movie that is able to balance tones really well, back and forth, like switch from drama to comedy to action, like and intertwine all these things. I just love those types of things without losing anything in the tone.
I totally agree.
Yeah, and I think Jojo Rabbit like made me emotional, made me laugh. I thought it was so smart. The comedy is so smart. The writing is so smart. The script is great. All the performances are amazing. Scarlett Johansson's phenomenal. The Roman Griffin's great. Thomasin McKenzie, Taika Waititi. Oh God, Sam Rockwell I said is in this movie as well. There's a couple of younger actors that play JoJo's like friends and stuff. Oh, it's just so hilarious. They're making a mockery and caricature of some of these like horrible atrocities, and also the characters of the types of people that would be in these positions. But it comes off respectfully, and there's just a lot of love put into this film. I've been rambling about this film. It's my number one. Yeah. Jojo Rabbit. If you haven't seen Jojo Rabbit, like check the movie out. It's my number one of 2022.
Wow.
Which shocked me that it was that high. That made number one.
That shocked me.
It was balanced between like a lot of different films. I said even some of the movies that are on my honorable mentions here could have been in my top 10 or my top 3. It's just depending on like the mood I'm in, I guess, when I'm writing them. But yeah, that's our top 10.
Yeah. So
we got some honorable mentions. Because this was such a hard list to make, we have 5 honorable mentions each. And I could have used 25 honorable mentions. You have 6 honorable mentions.
I couldn't take one off the list. Okay, my honorable mentions are Interstellar. I don't know any of the actresses or actors' names.
Matthew McConaughey. And what's the redhead girl's name? I love her. Jessica Chastain.
Oh yeah, Jessica Chastain. Just phenomenal movie. Like aliens, existence, space, blow your mind at the end, crazy twist. Must watch. Number 2. No, I'm not numbering them. Okay, another one is Loving. I had to put Loving on the list. We have a poster of Loving in Introvert Theater as well.
Jeff Nichols, directed by Jeff Nichols.
Yeah.
Joel Edgerton and Jeff Nichols together.
Story of forbidden love between a white man and a black woman.
Based on a true story.
Yeah.
Really well done. Mm-hmm. First movie of Jeff Nichols where it was based on an actual event.
Jojo Rabbit is in my honorable mentions. Awesome movie. It might have made my list as well, but I think part of the problem is I'm so far removed from some of the movies that if they didn't leave like the most lasting impact on me, and I watched them earlier in the year, it's hard to put them on. Red Shoes, had to put that on there. I do ballet, and it just was it's like the only real beautiful ballet movie to me that exists.
That's another one that didn't make my honorable mention or my top 10, but easily could have been in my top 10. Yeah. The Red Shoes.
Beautiful, wonderful movie.
Yeah, 1930s movie.
Yeah,
restored in 4K on the Criterion Collection. Best way to watch it if you're capable, but the Blu-ray or streaming would be good as well.
The whole third act is a ballet, which was just amazing.
Yeah.
And I also have 10 Years on this list, which we recently watched. Terry introduced me to. Oscar Isaac singing, just like, sorry, game over. Amazing movie.
It's about a 10-year high school reunion.
It
good
is.
Movie.
It's so.
Really good movie.
It's
Chris
like,
Pratt, Justin Long. What's his name?
It's something I think I'm feeling so much right now.
You just watched it.
You know, no, but I mean in the sense that like
place in your life.
I'm coming up on my 30s, and I'm sometimes you think about high school, you reminisce on when you were a teenager, when you were in university, when you were young, and I'm finally getting to the stage of my life where my friends are getting married, people are having kids, and it really hit me hard. I love that movie. And the last one is Memories of Murder, which you spoke about. 6.
Okay, my honorable mentions are The Whale. Brendan Fraser, directed by Aaron Aronofsky. Easily could have been in my top 10, my top 5, my top 3. I don't know why. Just other stuff beat it out. The Whale. The reason you're showing up for this film is for Brendan Fraser's performance. Mm-hmm. It's very much. It's adapted from a play. And that, if you know that going in, it actually kind of comes off like that. It's like one location.
It does.
He's a morbidly obese man in his apartment essentially, and he's kind of people are coming to see him back and forth. Mm-hmm. Phenomenal movie. See this for nothing more than Brendan Fraser's performance alone. Yeah, that's in my honorable mention. All Quiet on the Western Front. This could have been my number 1.
I can't believe that wasn't on your list.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened. It could have been my number 1. It didn't even make it was either going to be number 1 or nothing. So it's weird. So this movie, All Quiet on the Western Front, is like, it's an unofficial number 1 of mine. I'm a huge fan of the book. It's one of my favorite books of all time. This is the 3rd film adaptation of this book. So you had the 1930s, which I think won Best Picture at the Oscars of that year. And then there was one in the 70s. I think it was made for TV. And there's this one. This one's the least like the book. There's a lot of similarities to the book, but they also take a bunch of other directions. This is like, there's not a lot of there's not very many, if any, blockbuster style World War One films. There's not a lot of World War One films in general that has a lot of mainstream attention. And this does a really good job of capturing the absolute horrificness of that conflict and the futileness and the things that are intertwined. There's a 5 to 10 minute scene here that rivals the opening scene to Saving Private Ryan, the D-Day landing, and I think it surpasses it, in my opinion. It's an absolutely gorgeous movie, beautifully acted, young cast. Just, we saw it at the world premiere at TIFF, and it could have been my number one, but it's only on my honorable mentions for some reason. The next one is Mass. So I'm not going to talk much about Mass. If you like character-driven stories, it's 4 people in a room sitting at a table talking about a horrific event. Mass. And it was directed by Fran. What the heck is his name? I'm so sorry, Fran, if you're watching this. He plays one of the characters in Cabin in the Woods. He plays the stoner in Cabin in the Woods, and he directs this film. And it is unreal.
My face was soaking wet the entire movie.
The movie's unreal. If you like character-driven stories, and you can't go into synopsis too much here. It's just two groups of parents meeting to talk about an issue. And it's unreal. There's 4 people in a room having this.
I can't believe it.
The dialogue is insane. The writing is nuts. Like, this movie, the way I'm talking to you, thinking it to be in my top 10, it should be in my top 10. It's a Wonderful Life.
Yay.
It is in my honorable mentions. First time ever seeing it. 40 years old.
We're gonna watch it every year.
Yeah, not something I was exposed to as much here in Canada. I know, as I said, it's a prolific American holiday movie. Love James Stewart. Love It's a Wonderful Life. Phenomenal movie. And then I have Sisu, which was a movie we saw at TIFF, which was from the director of Rare Exports, about an over-the-top action World War II film, like crazy over-the-top, grizzled war vet who's now a gold miner in the hills, right towards the end of World War II, as the German soldiers are leaving the occupied European countries and towns that they were in for the last many years as they scuttle back to Berlin.
Yep.
Leaving scorched earth, and they encounter this 75-plus-year-old grizzled veteran and try to take his gold and just like fuck around and find out. Yeah. type of movie. So fun. That movie was so fun.
Is that 6?
No, this is my last one now. And my last one could have been in my top 10 also, Banshees of Inisherin.
I know, I took that off my list too.
Yeah, Banshees of Inisherin, Colin Farrell, about it's early 1900s Ireland, I think, and his best friend won't talk to him anymore. Doesn't want to be his friend anymore. He shows up to his house one day, so he's a lovable town idiot, I guess.
You're making it sound like they're like kids, but
they're adults. Yeah, lovable town idiot. And he shows up, his buddy won't talk to him one day.
Yeah.
And this movie is like, heartfelt and jovial, and then it's comedic, then it gets dark
and shocking,
then bounces kind of back and forth. Yeah. But this movie was Carrie Condon, I think, plays his sister, Carrie Condon. You'd recognize her as in Breaking Bad and in Better Call Saul. She is Mike's daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
She is wonderful in this film.
Yeah,
she
really
plays his sister Siobhan.
Yeah.
But this is a Colin Farrell nominated Best Actor performance for sure.
Yep.
Banshees of Inisherin could have made my top 10. Definite see. It's on Disney Plus right now.
Yay.
Check it out. That's my last honorable mention, and those are our top 10.
Great. Well, if you watch this whole thing, thank you for joining us, or if you skim through, thank you also.
Thank you for skimming, all 2 of you.
Yeah. I mean, even if you watch one movie off this list that you haven't seen, that's great for us. We just want to share the movies that we think are wonderful so other people can watch them and so we can talk to people about them.
Yeah.
So if you've seen any of these movies and you want to talk about them or leave your thoughts, we invite you to comment below or message us on Instagram.
If you watch one of these movies and you love it, leave a comment. If you're hating them, yell at us for wasting your time.
There you go. Yeah. Happy New Year to all of you around the world.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year from Introvert Theater, and we'll see you next time we make a video, which is probably soon. We're going to talk about our time at Toronto International Film Festival.
Yes.
And yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Peace!